Hello again, my fiber friends. I'm ReRe, and this is Exploration Crochet, part of the Yarn Over Hook network. You all have heard my crochet origin story, how I started around 9 with 3 stitches and 1 wearable. If not, please check out my very first podcast. That's episode 1 from season 1, Why Crochet? One of my favorite things about crochet is that a person can begin with very little. A hook, a strand of yarn, a patient teacher, and a reason to keep trying. And that one lesson can travel so much further than either the teacher or the student realizes at that moment in time. That's one of the things that's just so exciting to me. Since I began with encouragement and coaching from 2 of my aunts, shout out to Aunt Kathy and Aunt Geraldine, crochet has carried me far beyond those first tentative stitches and that first hair tie. It's taken me into yarn shops and on yarn crawls. It's taken me to fiber festivals and trade shows, all while exploring fascinating history, podcasting, and a worldwide community of makers. Not to mention the many friends crochet has allowed me to make. And it has also carried me into teaching. You all know I taught my daughter Sammy to crochet many years ago, and crochet and her skill and expertise have taken her to places I'm sure she never imagined when she was a little kid. In addition to her, I have attempted to teach my son Roman, and have recently been working with other elementary school kids, and my sister, who is like an elementary school kid. Not to mention all the people that have seen me at work or just outside at the airport or in a restaurant crocheting and approached me with their crochet questions, all the people in the various crochet groups I've been a part of, and people on Yarn Over Hook. But lately, Crochet and I have been having a very interesting discussion. How can I take what I already know and have experienced and develop that into a thoughtful, organized, and adaptable way of teaching? So, to help me answer that question, I am beginning the Craft Yarn Council's Levels 1 and 2 Crochet Instructor certification. Think of them as the crochet world equivalent of the Wizarding World's newts. So in this episode and the next couple, I'm going to be spending some time talking about that instructor certification. For this episode, I'm going to share a brief look at what the program is, what it requires, some of the notable crocheters connected to it, what separates an experienced maker from an effective teacher, and why returning to the fundamentals may be the most advanced thing a crocheter can do. Grab your hook, settle in, and let's get back to learning. All right, so let us begin with a mildly uncomfortable truth. Being good at something does not automatically make us good at teaching it. That's what happens when a skill becomes familiar. After enough repetition, many of the movements become automatic. We stop narrating them to ourselves. We don't consciously think, okay, now let me rotate the hook slightly downward so the yarn can pass through the loop more easily. We simply do it. That automatic knowledge is wonderful when we're crocheting. It is less helpful when a beginner asks, "How did you do that?" Then we do what experienced crocheters have done since the dawn of time. We say, like this, and we perform the movement again. The beginner looks at us, we look at the beginner, meanwhile the yarn is looking at both of us. Teaching requires us to unpack what experience has compressed. We have to take one fluid action and break it into visible, manageable steps. We have to notice the small details that our hands and mind are no longer cognizant of. Teaching elementary age kids adds the energy of a group classroom. For the last year, I have worked with 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, each arriving with different hands, attention spans, confidence levels, and ideas about what the yarn ought to be doing. They have taught me that enthusiasm is powerful, but enthusiasm still needs a plan. They have also taught me the value of a little crochet theater. Last year, I made a purple and neon green witch's hat with a glow-in-the-dark spider web. It also had a matching green spider and a brim so large it was basically the pimp hat of witch hats. I wore it to an after-school crochet club, and the children reacted as though crochet were actual wizardry. That moment mattered. Before I teach a technique, I found that it's helpful to help the students imagine what that technique can become. We also have to remember what it feels like not to know. A simple chain raises questions about slip knots. How did something so simple become so complicated? The loop on the hook, which end of the yarn to use, what exactly does yarn over mean? An effective instructor has to do more than demonstrate. That instructor must observe, diagnose, adapt, encourage, and sometimes find completely different ways to explain the same idea. Students do not all learn in the same way or at the same speed. Some need to see a demonstration, some need words, some need diagrams, some need to imitate the movement beside the teacher, and some need permission to repeat the same step 10 times without feeling the class has left them behind. This is one reason the Craft Yarn Council describes its certified instructor program as a combination of teaching and technical skills. It's not enough to produce a beautiful swatch. The instructor must also be able to organize information into a lesson, communicate clearly, and help a student learn at that student's own pace. The objective is to create the conditions in which someone, anyone, can learn to crochet. The Craft Yarn Council's Certified Instructor Program, often shortened CYP, was established in 1982. According to the Council, more than 20,000 students have completed the program since then. That's roughly 460 a year worldwide, with many going on to teach in yarn shops, community programs, classrooms, workshops, fiber fests, and YouTube, as Elise of Elise Rose has completed the Level 1 course. I'll leave a link to her video about her experience taking the course in the show notes. Many crocheters know the Craft Yarn Council through its yarn weight numbers and standardized abbreviations. The certification program expands that idea into the classroom by pairing a shared technical foundation with teaching methods. Level 1 concentrates on the foundation an instructor needs: basic stitches or teaching basics, lesson planning, core stitches, increases and decreases, pattern stitches, and crocheting in the round. The candidate completes assignments including 17 swatches of different stitches and/or techniques, one stitched beginner project with instructions, and that can be original or purchased, 3 written lesson plans with at least one beginner crochet project different from the other one, and at least 15 hours of teaching, which can be formal or informal. The instructions stress a focus on the candidate's ability to follow instructions. So, without going into detail about the specific swatches and techniques, the candidates are asked to make swatches to particular specifications. Some instructions are written, some are charts with symbols, and the candidate must do color changes in various styles, and the instructions stress all ends must be woven, and they say specifically, so they are invisible. After successfully completing the Level 1 requirements, a candidate receives a Craft Yarn Council instructor certificate and an enamel pin that says they are a CYC certified instructor. I'll go into the Level 2 requirements in a later podcast, but after its completion, the candidate receives a certificate and an enamel pin that states they are a CYC certified teacher. And I have to admit, the curriculum was impressive to me. When I began researching the program, I wanted to know who else had traveled this road. The first is especially relevant to my journey, Master Teacher Linda Dean. She will be leading the in-person program that I will be attending. Linda is a longtime self-taught crocheter, a professional member of the Crochet Guild of America, a master in advanced stitch and technique, fundamentals and basics, a certified instructor teacher with the Craft Yarn Council, and she has served as a past president of the board of directors as well as a chairman for the Masters Committee for the Crochet Guild of America. At the past Crochet Guild of Australia's meeting, she was there teaching classes, and they gave her the coveted Crocheter of Distinction Award. Linda completed her CYC certification in 2012 and has said the certification did not create her crochet ability, but helped her organize and communicate what she knew. And that's precisely why it's of interest to me. Another important name is Karen Klemp, a CYC certified instructor since '97 and a master teacher since 2016. She has taught some of everywhere and is a past Crochet Guild of America president. And the Craft Yarn Council credits her with being instrumental in establishing its yarn standards. And finally, there is Marie Segares, the designer, educator, author, and entrepreneur behind Underground Crafter. Maria completed both CYC levels in both crochet and knitting and has taught some of everywhere. So certification is not the only path to becoming an excellent teacher, obviously. As I've said before, crochet has always traveled through hands, families, friends, guilds, churches, schools, books, and videos. But the careers of these women and Elise show how structured instructor training can become one thread in a much larger professional life, and how certification helps crochet knowledge remain clearer as it's passed forward. So I can hear some of you asking, after crocheting for so many years, why pursue certification now? And that's a great question. One of the main reasons is because experience has not convinced me that I have nothing left to learn. It has shown me how much there is to learn. I also want to examine my own habits and revisit things that I do, because crochet itself has changed a lot during all the time I have participated in it. I can still remember when chaining 3 between 3 double crochet groups and granny projects was common. Made no sense, but it was common. I remember beginning centers with a short chain joined into a ring before the magic ring became so familiar. And a chain start for crocheting in the round is one of the tasks. I remember when a traditional starting chain was simply the price of admission, before chainless foundations gave many projects a more flexible and better looking edge. And don't even get me started on turning chain evolution. Interesting side note, another share. Turning chains are required for most of the swatches. And I will comply because the assignment manual clearly states you are being evaluated on your ability to follow instructions. That reinvention is one of my favorite things about crochet. But it is also a teaching challenge. Experienced crocheters collect shortcuts and preferences, and familiarity can disguise itself as universal truth. Instructor training requires me to ask why I use a method, and to evaluate whether it's standard or simply a preference. I also have to look at what effect what I'm doing has on what I'm trying to produce, and whether I can demonstrate other functional approaches. There is something humbling about returning to a craft's foundations after decades. But foundational does not mean unimportant. The foundation is carrying everything above it. Oh, and I forgot to mention 2 other things. Candidates are given a crochet pattern row and asked to explain what is to be done or how it is to be executed. And there's some required writing, which includes explaining, of all things, the importance of gauge. Yes, the dirty 5-letter word, and blocking. So everything that's submitted swatch-wise has to be blocked. Just thought I'd throw that in there too. Crochet has always depended on people willing to pass it on. Long before video tutorials, downloadable patterns, and online classes, someone sat beside someone else and said, "Watch what I do with this hook." And I'm so proud that my first lesson didn't stop with me. Mary Thorpe has been gone for some time now, but what she did lives on in me and everyone I touch with crochet. I will always credit her for my being where I am doing what I'm doing. So, as for the Craft Yarn Council's NEWTs, that's Nastily Exhausting Wizarding Tests Level 1 Crochet Instructor Edition. I said wizardry. I plan to bring you along with me on this journey. The assignments, the evaluator feedback, the surprises, the challenges. Now, full disclosure, I have actually already finished all the work for Level 1. I wrote this podcast last week and then proceeded to dive in. I didn't know I'd finish it quite as quickly as I did. The assignments took me about a week, and my previous teaching of the kids more than covered my 15 hours. I have already submitted all of the written portions to Linda, and the swatches are currently pinned to the blocking boards, waiting until she and I meet in person. My next podcast will go into more detail about what the level requires. I'll take you behind the scenes of Level 1 as much as I can. I'm still trying to figure out how not to reveal all the secrets. But I'll talk about what surprised me, what challenged me, and whether a woman who crocheted for longer than the median age in the United States can actually survive not only having to use turning chains, but having them professionally evaluated. If you're considering the Certified Instructor program, thinking about teaching crochet, or simply wondering whether returning to the fundamentals could strengthen your own skills, I hope you'll come along. I'll leave a link for the Craft Yarn Council Certified Instructor program page in the show notes. You can't see the actual curriculum, but there is a lot of information there. You know, crochet has taught me that even the most elaborate project begins with one simple loop. And this Level 1 is simply the next loop in my crochet journey. So I'm excited. If you've enjoyed this episode, consider tipping me a tea. And please don't forget to rate, like, subscribe, and share. Maybe share it with the person who taught you to crochet, or even with the person you hope to teach. And as always, thank you so very much for listening. This has been Exploration Crochet.